Talk to me. Are you muted? See if you're muted.
Is that better?
Did you
Is that better?
unmute it?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you not hear me? Let me turn up. Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Is that better?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly fine, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
I hear you great. As a matter of fact,
well,
I've never heard you louder. I mean, you're coming in really clear.
Okay, well, I don't think I even need the headphones anymore.
Oh, really? Okay.
I can't believe, I don't know why in the world we can't get where you can see me. And it's got just like the icon, right? That's all you see, right?
Right.
I don't know why that is. Whatever.
I'm trying to see if there's something on my screen so I can all of a sudden see you, but I would imagine that's going to be something you'd have to do on your end.
I'm that's what I'm trying to look. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, it's not, but whatever. Okay. All right. You ready to go?
All
right, here we go. Hey again, everybody, and welcome into Talkin Tusc. Luke Robinson along with Jimmy Stein. As always, Jimmy, how are you today?
We're alive. We are alive. I can confirm.
No broken feet.
Well, we're not linebackers in Alabama, so we're alive.
You know, our friend Elizabeth, who runs 3 yards in the cloud, she had a tweet the other day that said every time Saban flips a recruit, an angel gets his wings.
Yeah, I read that.
I think every time we do a podcast, a linebacker breaks his foot.
Well, I would say that means we're doing too many podcasts, but clearly we're not. So
yeah, clearly
we've done our part by not doing the podcast.
Yes, Saban, why don't you coach him up, homie? I mean, we've quit podcasting until today when we find out Dylan Moses is he's got a broken foot, man. I don't know what it is. It's like an epidemic of broken feet. Or is that like our Achilles heel? When we bathe these players in deer antler spray, do we like hold them by the foot and that one foot just that's their Achilles heel, literally?
He didn't part the Red Sea. He parted his metatarsal bone.
You know what? He had 15 commandments, but he was like, I'm not going back up that hill.
The other 5 weren't that important anyway.
He said, you know what? It's cool.
There's a lot of technical stuff. You know, don't do this while you're doing that.
Yeah.
Don't do this on Tuesdays. It's good on Thursdays.
He said, y'all get the idea. He said after the 10th when he was like, y'all get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he yada for the other 5.
He yada 5 commandments.
Thankfully, we haven't done a podcast in weeks, but thankfully, I think the last one we did was like right before Mississippi State or something.
Yeah.
Here's the really good news: nothing has happened.
Yeah, the good news is we didn't just pull one out against Mississippi State. We haven't had anybody get hurt, and some people miraculously come back. We didn't lose the Iron Bowl.
The Auburn game was not noteworthy in any way.
That's right. There was nothing to talk about.
The playoff, schmayoff.
I wasn't on the edge of my seat, literally, with my 1-year-old daughter cradled into my bosom.
Wow.
Sounds weird. But I was literally like on the bed. My wife was there. My 1-year-old daughter was there. And she's just the nicest little kid. Never really complains about anything. And my wife was like, do you think we'll get in? I said, no, we're not going to get in. I said, they're going to give it to Ohio State. They don't want 2 SEC teams. And that's just the way it's going to be. And Alabama flashed up, and I screamed at the top of my lungs and scared the ever-living shit out of my daughter. And I mean, like, I was torn between comforting her and continuing on with my celebration. And so, obviously, I continued on with my celebration.
Well, obviously, and we're in, and thankfully, the good news is by not doing the podcast, we didn't have to cover all those should we be in, and yeah, we did get in, and now the focus should be just on the game because, the first 2 Clemson Alabama games have been epics. I mean, there was a channel, I don't even know if it exists anymore. Is there still an ESPN Classic? Is there still an ESPN Classic? And there is,
but it's probably been fired by now. Everybody else at ESPN has been.
The first 2 Clemson games were instant classics, as they call them, and I honestly think there's no reason that this third one won't be. I mean, I want to spend most of today talking about the extreme negativity on the part of Alabama fans about this game, but I know, win or lose, I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. And I think this game will be decided by one or two plays in the fourth quarter, exactly like the first two Alabama-Clemson games were. And I think the people that put Alabama in this game are going to be happy they did, because win or lose, it's going to be tight. And I think if Ohio State or USC or Wisconsin was in this game, I think Clemson would win by 3 scores.
Oh, I totally agree. I think we are the best matchup for them. And and I'm sorry, everybody. I think I've got a sinus infection. I've got the epizooties. I've got something.
Yeah, I got a cold. I got a cold too.
And so if I sneeze or cough or something, y'all get it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I think we were aided by the fact that Ohio State certainly got the hell beat out of them by Clemson last year, and that that Wisconsin absolutely played nobody of substance until they played Ohio State, and then they got beat. They really weren't. I know Ohio State only won by 6, I think, but that game really was never in doubt. I mean, who in the world thought Wisconsin would win that game? I mean, you had to have literally.
I thought maybe at the end they might. I mean, they had the ball. They had a ball. They had the ball with the chance to win at the end, and I certainly didn't want to see Alabama not make the playoff that way, because even like you said, Wisconsin didn't play a challenging schedule. However, had Wisconsin won that game, they'd be in, and Alabama would be at home. Or Alabama would be technically in Miami, playing Miami in the Orange Bowl. But
oh yeah,
I mean, if Wisconsin had won that game, that's what would have happened. There's no doubt about teams that could have. I mean, Wisconsin wins, they're in, and Alabama's out. If Auburn had beaten Georgia, they're in, probably Georgia out. So yeah, that championship Saturday decided some things for sure.
And really quickly, I think 4 teams is perfect. I don't want any more teams. I mean, it's spurred all this debate about, should we need to expand immediately. I mean, why do we have such a knee-jerk reaction to this shit? 4 teams is perfect.
Because this is what human nature in sports is so bad at, and that's recency effect and small sample size. Because of every season is going to end differently with a completely different set of variables. Yet, however this season ends, everybody wants to change the whole thing so it can fit what happened this season. When the fact is, next season is going to end completely differently, and people are going to be saying, you know what, perfect 4 games, or you know what would have been great with this season, 2 games, you know what would have been great this season, we really needed a 16-team playoff. I mean, every year is going to be different, and that's the beauty of it, and it's also the downside of it. I mean, you can't have 10 conferences, 128 teams, and one perfect way to resolve it all. It can't be. It's not the NFL. It's not 32 teams on an even playing field. It's 128 teams and 10 conferences. It's Utah State on the one hand playing with the same set of rules as Alabama on the other hand. It's dumb that anyone thinks that there's a way to just resolve all of it problem free. I think the playoff is good as is. I was against it. I like the BCS. I thought the BCS was fine. Now that we've had 4 years of the playoff, I think the playoff's fine. But when you keep adding and keep adding, it's going to collapse under its own weight. Not to mention, you're going to kill these poor kids. They can't play all these games. It's too many games for college kids to be playing. And if you're going to add playoff games, then you got to start lopping off regular season games. And nobody wants to do that because that's money for everybody. So,
well, and not only that, Jimmy, here's the thing. Everybody acts like it's got to be this definitive set of rules to get people into the playoffs when nothing in football is definitive. I mean, we saw the other night in the NFL, which is much more definitive in terms of playoff and seeding and whatever. They had to use an index card to decide whether or not there was a first down or not. There was a touchdown, which in my opinion was clearly a touchdown.
It's a touchdown.
But they said it didn't survive the ground.
Whatever the hell.
And look, but here's the thing. I can kind of see where they're coming from. I don't think it's the worst call I've ever seen. I would have called it a touchdown. But football is surrounded in ambiguity. Look, when Dak Prescott, or for that matter, Jalen Hurts, goes into a pile on 4th and inches, and there is a sea of humanity on top of him. And then an official comes in and just puts the ball wherever he feels froggiest.
Yeah, exactly. It's so silly that those measurements mean nothing, because when you make first downs, they don't spot the ball down to the inch.
No, and
when you make a first down, they just put the ball down.
I see so many times. This is no shit. I called the state championship games and the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, and I saw the same thing twice, and I can't say anything about it because I'm with the AHSA radio network. But there were at least 4 or 5 times in those games when I saw an official raise his hand after the ball was dead, right? And he's running down the sideline, down the field, out towards the middle of the field to spot the ball where he thinks it was. And just the way he walks had him drift one way or the other. There was a half a yard gained or lost just because he walks with a gimp to the left.
That's natural.
And it's just natural.
In every league.
But so what my point is that football is filled with uncertainties. It's filled with truths. It's filled with all this nebulous bullshit. And yet when it comes to a playoff, everybody lost their minds because somebody didn't win a conference championship. If Florida had beaten Alabama last year, which it would have been a true Christmas miracle. But if they had done it, and somebody's going to try and convince me that Florida team last year that just happened to backdoor its way into a title game because it was in the lousy SEC East, they deserve to play for a national championship. That's total and utter bullshit. Everybody knows it. If you're going to do this conference champion thing must get in rule, then you do away with divisions and you take the 2 best teams from each conference. Even then, you could have a conference that has a USC in it and 13 other bunk players like USC was having back in their heyday in the mid-2000s. So there's no perfect system. The NFL doesn't have a perfect system.
No, I mean, there's been several times that I think both times the New York Giants won Super Bowls under Eli Manning, I think both times they finished something like 9-7 or 10-6 during the regular season. That's the best team in the NFL. There is no perfect way. I would even argue that many times the best college basketball team doesn't win the NCAA tournament.
It's not even close. They don't, and they get
insane.
It's such crap. And look, 4 is perfect because it does give us the most representative team that would be the best, in my opinion. I think these are the 4 best teams in college football. I think Oklahoma, Bama, Georgia, and Clemson are clearly the 4 best teams in college football.
Agreed. And the idea, though, I mean, so many people have said, well, Alabama lost to Auburn. Yes, those are the 4 best teams, but any of those 4 could lose on the road to another legitimate top 10 team. You just don't see many of those matchups during the year. But if you play a legitimate top 10 team on the road, good luck. I mean, you know, it's still hard to win those games. Just because you're the best 4 doesn't mean that the only teams you can lose to are the other teams in the field. I mean, it's a tough game. But anyway, I agree with you. These are the 4 best. I think they proved it, and now Alabama gets an opportunity to prove they belong in the top 2. And it's a steep mountain. Clemson is really, really, really good. They are the defending national champions that went 12-1 and won their league. And of course they're good. People are like, yeah, well, Alabama might not win this game. Well, of course they might not. Clemson's really, really good. Only Alabama fans under Nick Saban have invented this idea that you can go to a championship game and blow out somebody because you're 5 scores better than the opposition. That's fantasy land, and it's what it is. It's Nick Saban's Alabama collapsing under its own weight is where I think many fans have lost their minds over this game. I'm tired of reading on the Alabama message boards and on talk radio that Alabama's offense is awful. No, Alabama's offense is flawed. It's flawed. It's not perfect. It's not awesome. It's not a machine, but it's not awful. You do not finish second in the SEC in total offense and first in scoring offense and be awful. That's stupid. It's stupid. Most of the takes from Alabama fans that are full of negativity about this game, they're not just bad, they're stupid takes, really stupid. And it's sort of pissed me off today.
I was going to say it.
Man,
Yeah.
that's mad for me, but it's true. I mean, Alabama's defense finished second in the nation in total defense, first in scoring defense, and all I read is, well, defense isn't what it was. It's not good enough to win a national championship. What the hell are these people talking about? What did we just watch for 3 months? I mean, Alabama is a very, very good football team, and Clemson may win the game, but Alabama's good, real good.
We are very good, Jimmy. I'm
Yeah,
with you. I'm not going to be
No.
shitty fan you don't like.
No,
But
I'm talking about the
you have
full
shitty
of
opinion you
negativity.
don't like.
No, that's fine. I'm talking about the full of the we're going to get blown out.
We're not going to get blown out.
When have we ever been blown out?
I mean,
by anyone, anywhere. I mean, we're going to have a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter, win or lose.
no, I agree with you. The problem I have, I do not think we win this ball game. I think their defensive line is going to be too much for us. I think that's the story. I think our injuries are an issue. I don't think we can do enough to, if they have a weakness in the secondary, I'm not sure we can do enough to exploit it. And if we could do enough to exploit it, we can only do it with one guy because we look at one guy when Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. I love Jalen Hurts. He's lost 2 games in his career. I get it. I'm not trying to dog him. I'm just saying that I think I know he's limited. We all know he's limited.
Right.
It's like, why can't we say that too? Why is it every time I have to say Jalen Hurts is limited, I have to either preface it or follow it up with, but I love Jalen Hurts.
Right, because this is why too many of the takes on Jalen are stupid.
That is true.
There's too many of the takes on Jalen are just dumb. That's not to say, exactly like you just said, he's not perfect. He's flawed. He's not a polished passer. He's not an NFL passer at this stage in his career, may never be. But it boggles my mind. Jay Barker in the 92 national championship game, I think, was 4 out of 18 for 17 yards and 2 interceptions, and Alabama won the game easily. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen in this game, and I'm not saying Jalen's going to be that bad against Clemson. But where in the hell, and I wanted to say the F word right there. I almost did. That's how mad I am. But where in the hell did Alabama fans get this idea that to be a good football team, your quarterback had to be a first-round pick in the draft? Where did this come from? Alabama's won the national championship with Jay Barker, Greg McElroy, Jake Coker, Stedman Shealy. Where were these guys in the first round of the draft? Where were they in the NFL at all? Nowhere. What? And Jalen is a superior athlete, by the way, to all of those people. It boggles my mind that because Jalen isn't, and just pick out whoever, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, he's not even a premier college passing quarterback like a Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, correct? And by the way, where is Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold? They're at home.
But even if we had those guys, here's the thing. They wouldn't fit our identity, so it wouldn't matter because our whole identity is rough, tumble, running backs, bruise you up, and play salty defense. So if we had a quarterback that slung it all over the field, I would argue that would permeate the entire team and change the way that our whole team's mindset is. Right? I mean, that's exactly. Look,
no, it's a fit. It's a fit. Jalen is a
Nebraska.
Fit what we're trying to do.
Look at Nebraska when they started slinging it all over the field with Bill Callahan. Where the hell are those black shirts they used to have? They're non-existent.
That's right. No, it's all right. It all works together. But I'm not defending Jalen when all I'm saying is, Alabama doesn't have to have the premier quarterback in college football to win a national championship. We've proved it time and time again. Now all of a sudden, all our fans act like Jalen has to be, some sort of premier passer to give us a chance to win the games. It's absurd. It flies in the face of the reality that's been in front of us for decades.
It also doesn't help that Tua Tagovailoa has come in and thrown darts, but
true. That feeds the fire. And again, it's not taking. I don't even really have an opinion about Tua. The only opinion I have about Tua is this: I'm not sure why seeing Tua in what amounts to a small sample size has everyone absolutely convinced that we're a better team with him at quarterback. I don't understand. I can understand why fans might hope that's the case. or they might believe that's the case, but there's no reality to that. And I know this. I think Nick Saban's trying to win the games. If Alabama was obviously better with Tua on the field, I'm pretty sure Nick Saban would have him out there, or at least give it a shot. I just think that people make way too big of a deal of sample size while ignoring the reality, which is what Alabama's record is with Jalen on the field, beating many good teams, and accept the fact that the quarterback, regardless of what type of quarterback he is probably going to be flawed to some degree. And many of the quarterbacks that Alabama fans believe we must have to win, most of those guys are sitting at home. They're not in the playoff. So
no, I agree. And I guess the reason people are so I don't know, happy. I'm not feeling good, man. I couldn't look for a good adjective about Tua is because, number one, his passes are crisper. They are sharper. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And secondly, he doesn't look to just one dude. I mean, it is clear as day. Jalen's going to look for Calvin Ridley and then going to run. And then if running's not there and if somebody happens to be open, he'll consider throwing it to them before he actually just starts running again. But that's – and again, that I'm not trying to dog him. It sounds like I'm dogging him. I'm just pointing out what happens.
I think Tua is a more natural – he's a natural, more polished passer.
Without a doubt.
I think I certainly believe that's true based on what I've seen. However, that does not mean in any way that Alabama's a better team with him in with him in the game, or that Alabama would be sitting here 11-1 playing for its second national championship in 2 years. It doesn't mean that. It just means that he's better at that than Jalen is, and that's all that means. Period. But again, look who's the best passer, in college football? I guess Josh Rosen. He's lost what does he go 7-5 and 7-5? And I know people can say, yeah, but look at the players around him. I'd say, yeah, look at the players around him. They're not bad. They're not horrible. UCLA doesn't beat Cal State Fullerton for players. I mean, they've got dudes. They have 2 or 3 guys drafted in the first round every year. I mean, but I'm just saying there is not some idea to me that if Alabama had a very polished passer, Alabama would win all the games. There is no evidence whatsoever that that's true.
All right, question for you. Tomorrow is early signing day.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, do you like early signing day? And number two, okay, I'm with you on that. I think it's a solution to a problem nobody had.
That's exactly. It's just insane. And gosh, we haven't done a podcast in weeks, and I'm just gonna be in a bad mood about everything. But
well,
I hate early signing.
If we're gonna do an early signing day, why don't you just say, okay, we're gonna do this some bitch in August?
Yeah, that's exactly. That's when it should have. If there's an early one, it should have been in July or August. Agree totally, but not in season. In season,
when
really?
People are preparing for the. Do you think? I think this early signing day has taken a little bit off of the playoffs.
Oh, there's no question, and that's what it's done to the fans. Imagine what it's done to the coaches.
No doubt.
Who aren't sleeping. They're not allowed to sleep. If you're preparing for a bowl game, you have to win, and trying to recruit your kids all the way to early signing day. The assistant coaches just aren't sleeping, and that's fine. Be hard on the coaches and do this to protect players, but I have yet to hear one reasonable explanation how this is benefiting players at all. I got in an argument with Dan Walken on the internet, on Twitter on Sunday, who tried to defend this 6 or 8 different ways. And I think Walken, he loves early signing day because Nick Saban hates it. That's probably really what that's about. But he kept trying to inform me that this is very beneficial to the recruits. He says because they get to end recruiting 7 weeks earlier and give them some peace. And I'm like, no, because of the early signing period, now they're getting recruited 7 weeks earlier.
Right.
It's not less time to be recruited. In fact, it's more time to be recruited and an even more impressionable time in their lives. And if Dan Walken, and I'm just going to use him as an example, if he is for pro early signing day, if he ever writes anything critical about a coach offering an 8th grader, I'm going to cuss him on Twitter every day for a year. I mean, you cannot have this both ways. I mean, you can't say, well, there needs to be an early period so we don't recruit these kids as long as we do, and then push the calendar up like he wants to do. That means you have to start recruiting these kids younger and younger. And who's going And who's going to bitch about it? The same people that bitch constantly about anything, like I'm doing right now. But see, I just bitch about the bitchers.
But yeah, you're bitching.
I bitch
You're
about the
bitching
bitchers.
fine.
Yeah, I bitch about the bitchers. I don't bitch about the system of the games.
And here's another good theory in life is if Dan Wolken is for it, I'm against it. I don't care what it is.
You could probably make some money with that philosophy.
I mean,
Yeah,
I ought to get a shirt with that on it, sort of like the Alabama does thing.
Yeah,
but
he's one I rarely agree with.
And he's such a pompous ass. I mean, some of these guys are so pompous about shit like that. Like Dan Wolken doesn't know his ass from deep center field when it comes to some of this stuff. And that's you know what, I'm fine with everybody having their opinion. I we all got opinions. That's fine. But there is another side to this, and I think if you look around and you use some common sense, you can say, okay, the intent was for this to be better for the players, but I think in reality it's not. I get where the intent comes from, and in a perfect world it probably would be better for the players. But if you really want to make it truly an early signing period, do it in August, or even in late, say it's going to be July 31st through August 2nd. And
right.
That's great. That's great.
I think a real reason this came about is, and this is kind of a guess on my part, I'm certainly not in the room, but I think a real reason this came about is, let's use as an example, because we know it is South Alabama. I think the South Alabamas of the world are sick of recruiting a guy, getting a kid committed, he's committed, and then a week before signing day, he gets an offer from a Power 5 program and dumps South to play at, let's say, Auburn, a week before signing day. And so South says, hey, let's do an early signing period so these big schools won't come poach the kids that we've been working on that have been committed to us for so long. Well, I think it's those schools that got this legislation passed.
Well, then it's not for the kids; it's for those schools.
Exactly.
Because
it didn't stop the problem.
And if
the problem still exists.
Yeah, and if you're a kid that burst onto the scene late, and all of a sudden Alabama and Penn State and USC are knocking on your door, but you've been committed to South Alabama, and you've already signed to South Alabama, you're robbing yourself of being able to brand yourself much more.
Yeah, poaching isn't a problem for the kids. It's a problem for Group of 5 schools and Power 5 schools that have a hard time competing with the Alabamas and Auburns and LSUs. And they have a lot of voting power when it comes to NCAA issues. And I think that's why ultimately this got passed. But it wasn't necessarily something for the kids. I think it was for the majority of schools who get tired of having their kids poached by the big Power 5 programs. And by the way, their new rule, it didn't stop it from happening. Roger McCreary, a really good under-the-radar safety for Mobile. He's been committed to South Alabama since May, had a really good senior year. His senior year tape gets out. He gets 3 SEC offers, including interest from Alabama. So he decommits from South Alabama 1 week before the early signing period. And that's my point. This didn't stop poaching at all. I mean, you're not stopping poaching by changing signing day. There's always going to be that because things change. Kids change. Schools have their commitment list, and that changes. And changing the date was never going to change the quote poaching. And someone needs to explain to me why poaching is a problem for anyone except for the small schools that lose players committed to them. But heck, big schools, Alabama's had 2 or 3 kids committed to them that aren't going to sign with Alabama. Quay Walker. I mean, Alabama wants Quay Walker to sign with them tomorrow. He's not. That indicates to me he's very likely to sign with someone else. So that's just the nature of recruiting.
Yeah. I mean, it's anyway. This thing sucks. Now let's go back to, since we are happy and there will be some signees. Is there any surprise you see tomorrow?
I hope a couple of good surprises for Alabama might be Christian Barmore, the big tackle from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 6'5", 285 pounds. He's exactly the type of defensive tackle that Alabama needs to add to the depth chart. Alabama's low on numbers on the defensive line. Barmore would be a big deal. He could end up signing early, which is a bit of a surprise. I think the expectation all along has been that Barmore would be a February signee, but I think he could sign tomorrow. Adabi Anoma, which is definitely one of the funnest names to say. He's maybe the premier pass rushing outside linebacker prospect in the country. He could end up surprising everyone by signing early tomorrow with Alabama. That would be 2 nice, huge coups on signing day number 1. And if there are surprises, I hope that's it, because if there's other surprises, they might be in the bad category. But I suspect, Luke, that when you count the 3 carryovers, meaning Bulovas, Hunter Brandon, and Jerez Parks, I think if you count those 3 as in addition to the guys signing tomorrow, we're going to have, I would say, we're going to be done with 18, 19 spots. Just be down to maybe down to 6, 7, 8 positions.
Any chance of Adam Anderson?
That would be a huge surprise. I would be really surprised. I think that he's
Or
a
Cox?
Georgia gun. My money would be on Georgia for both. They're putting together a hell of a class. One advantage they've had is that it was a fantastic year in Georgia for players.
Oh, yeah.
And it was not a great year in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, which is normally just chock full of great players. And there are good players in Florida. No doubt. I'm not saying there aren't any. I'm just saying there's fewer elite kids than normal and all those places. But Georgia is chock full of kids again. And the University of Georgia is obviously would be the beneficiary of that. And they are. They're taking advantage of it.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. And as evidenced by the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, which I just suffered this past week.
Best prospect on the field. See, I haven't seen a tape. I haven't seen nothing. So you tell me, best prospect on the field to either team.
Ooh, either team. Okay, I would say it would be a tie between.
Tempting to pick someone from Mississippi with the score like it was, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's funny.
That doesn't mean anything.
The Marcus Murphy, the running back who's committed to Mississippi State, he had a big game. He had like 150 yards, maybe a touchdown or 2. And there was a kid named, I think, Gainley or Gainlaw. It's already out of my head. And he's committed. Trying to think where he's committed. Memphis maybe. And he's fast, and he, like, every time he got the ball, he seemed to score, but he always got the ball pretty close to the end zone. And he was listed as a quarterback, and he was a lefty, but he could not throw the ball worth a darn, but he could run like nobody's business. And then I would say Malik Heath, who's going to Mississippi State, right, good as a wide receiver. This is going to sound stupid. I thought Jack West looked okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the problem in that game. And some people saw it on TV, and they must have saw the same thing I did.
The snapper.
Oh, Jeebus, Jimmy! I can't. We were dumbfounded. I mean, I was doing. You know Corey LeBounty, don't you? From down there.
I know of him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the.
I don't know personally yet, but I know what you're talking about.
He was my color commentator, and I did play-by-play for the first time ever. And I mean, we were dumbfounded that it was like Alabama practiced all week under center, and then the day of the game, they said, "Okay, guys, we're going to the pistol. How do you feel about your pistol snapping?" And he was like, "I guess fine." And so he said, "Okay, just be sure to throw it high and slow." And so, he snapped it back there, and each one of them was a moonraker, and it took a second. And if there's ever, football is not a game of inches, it's a game of milliseconds. And that ball was back there so slow, there was no chance for a play to ever develop. So everybody that you wanted to see do well didn't look worth the damn for the most part. Asa Martin, he never had a chance. I have no idea if he's good or not. He had never had a chance in the game. Jack West never had a chance. James Foster, they never had a chance. Nobody. Justin Ross, they threw deep to him 3 times. None of them were ever completed. I'll say this, though. He caught one and spun on a dime, shaking his man, and was able to get ahead for some yardage. And you were like, okay, that's what I've been looking to see. But there was nobody on the Alabama side, nobody, that I looked at and said, that kid's a must-have. And when Rashaan Evans played, I was like, Alabama's got to find a way to get him. He's going to go to Auburn. It's going to depress me. That game took place in December. At the time, everybody thought he was going to Auburn. TJ Yeldon, when I saw him, I said, oh, my God, somehow we got to flip him. He's Reuben Foster. All these guys you knew. But there was nobody on the field that I said, got to have him. I did get a chance to talk to the kicker from Fort Payne. Again, I'm sick.
Evan McPherson. His parents were staying in my hotel, and I got to see them beforehand. And I asked the dads. I said, so did Alabama? How did that recruiting go down? He said, look, they already have Bulovas. He knew him by name. He said, and Auburn's got the other Carlson kid, and Mullen just developed a relationship with us, and so we're headed to Florida now. Right.
That kid's good. Now, he kicked
He is
about a
good.
shot a 50-yarder that was short, but you could tell he's good.
Yeah, he's a legitimate. I think Evan McPherson could be an SEC star, not just the
Oh, yeah.
starting kicker at Florida. Once Pinero's done, he could be a star. But most schools like in Alabama, they're not going to have more than one kicker on scholarship, and Bulvis is Alabama's guy, so hopefully he'll be good in the spring. I guess we'll find out.
The other guy who had probably maybe the best play for Alabama, honest to God, I think McPherson may have been the best prospect on Alabama's side. No kidding. But Cavassier Smoke had a long run, and he showed a mean stiff arm a couple of times. I mean, mean.
He's definitely underrated to me. I don't think he's worthy of an Alabama offer, but he's an SEC player to me. On the what I would call a low end SEC, Mississippi State, Kentucky.
Yeah, I agree.
Type deal.
I think South Carolina. But look, I interviewed him. Super nice kid. I'm telling you right now, he's dying for an Alabama offer. I don't think it's going to happen. And I even asked him, I said, look, would you be up for moving to the defense? Because I don't know about at running back. He's really good. I mean, he's really good.
You're right. He might be a better defensive player.
That speed, you put him at defensive end and let him come around the corner, Jeff Holland style, I think it would work pretty well.
I think one thing also holding Alabama back a little bit in this game was, to my knowledge, no Coinus Miller, right? Coinus Miller didn't play.
No, and by the way, it's Conis. The Y is silent, but no, he did not play.
Conis Miller. I've been saying Coinus, and it's Conis.
Me too, because I always wanted to say Coinus Interruptus, but it's not going to happen.
It's Conis Miller. Okay, but he didn't play in the game.
No, he didn't play.
Jalen Armour Davis didn't play.
He didn't play. That LaDerrick Jackson didn't play.
Harold Joyner was not in this game.
I don't know if Harold Joyner was invited, Jimmy.
I don't think so. So Jack West played and James Foster played, but were severely handicapped by the snapping issue.
Oh, I mean, yeah, they were in trouble. Now, if they had started in a true shotgun versus sort of like this kind of pistol, maybe it would have helped them, or it might have even hurt them, because I don't know if the ball would have ever made it back there.
So I'm just saying that, man, you line all that up, and no wonder Alabama's high school all-star team struggled. I'm not sure they had the best lineup possible, but man, when you have bad snaps from the center time and time again, nothing's going to go right, because offense is built on timing. These kids their whole life have been taken. They know they get the snap, they take their 3-step drop, the ball comes out, and when the timing is off, then the timing's off of everything, including the routes, everything. So yeah, I can see why it was a mess.
I thought our receivers were going to be fantastic, but the Alabama offensive line just was not good. It's probably, and I mean, if there's an Alabama all-star offensive lineman listening to this, I'm not trying to be insulting here. It's just, I think of the all-star offensive lines I have seen in the 10 years I've done this, that was the worst one.
Is not that being highly recruited means everything, but I think Tank Jenkins is probably the only offensive lineman that was in that game that's going to end up at a really good program.
Now, Cameron Stutz is committed to Auburn.
He's going to Auburn. That's right. Well,
but he
didn't get a lot of offers.
Absolutely destroyed.
He might be going to Auburn, but he wasn't highly recruited.
And also I think he was playing tackle, and he really is. I think they're going to play him at guard, and you could tell. I mean, he's just not suited for tackle, apparently.
Yeah, I didn't read any practice reports all week that indicated that he'd had a great week of practice. So, just not a good week for Alabama. Well, I got to run soon, so we're gonna do one again next week, right?
Yeah, I'm here all next week, and I'm off. So my timing's a lot better. So anytime you want to do next week, I'm cool.
Good. So we'll do predictions next week.
Okay, you got Lane Kiffin got a 10-year deal today. Make you happy?
Happy for Lane, but there's no freaking possible way he'll be there 10 years. He'll be at another Power 5 program before that 10 years, or he will flame out and be fired.
Or he'll be at the Mayo Clinic being studied for some incredibly new STD.
Let's hope, for his sake, let's hope so. I'm sure that's the way he'd love to go.
That would be funny if, like, at the bar 10 years from now, somebody's like, man, I want to hook up with her, but I heard she's got a bad case of kyphonesis. There's
not much left with STDs. Maybe what's going to happen is you just do it, and then while you're doing it, everyone explodes.
No, well, yeah, while you're doing it, you can't help but raise your arms. Like, that'd be funny. All right.
Yeah.
Well, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.
All right, buddy.
All right.
See you.
See you, man. All right. Bye.